This is wild.
Lizards. Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Shane Dawson. Welcome to another conspiracy. I love him. He's my dad. That's my father, I think.
I didn't sleep with no conspiracy theorists.
Hi everybody, it's Alyssa. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see, today I have a special guest. It's my birth mom, Shannon! Okay, so as you can probably tell by the title, today's video is going to be about my adoption story. I did a video on this about a year ago, basically just briefly talking about how I was adopted and how it was an open adoption. But if you guys kind of wanted a more in-depth look at it, I have the best guest to bring on to the set. Yes. We know so much about this. It's almost like we've experienced it ourselves.
Right. Just like that.
Yeah.
We just thought it would be important to post this, so definitely post comments and questions if you guys have anything. I know I've known a lot of people to be adopted over the years, and we're maybe always wondering about if that would have been a better choice, or hey, who are my birth parents, where are they? We just have a different swing on things, so we've always wanted to share it with the world, so hopefully this goes out there and we can help answer some questions for people.
I do have my notes down here, so if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notepad. You can probably see my notepad too. It's in the frame. It's fine.
It's totally fine. We
Yeah.
need to keep it on track here. You know?
Yes. So my video that I recorded a year ago about my adoption story will be in the description box below. Shannon also did appear in one of my vlogs in summer 2016. So I'm just going to link that below. It's kind of irrelevant because it's been almost 2 years now. But if you guys like watching vlogs.
Actually, my uncle and my mom are in that video. And so that's just sort of, you know, a visual of what it looks like when we hang out.
Yeah, like when we do get together and do like family events and stuff.
Yeah, and the dynamic with that. So that's also could be unusual for people, but it's very normal for us.
Yeah, and then that will be linked below. So all the videos related to this are in the description box. Click, like, view, share, subscribe, tell your mom, your boyfriend, your
cousin,
your side hoe.
Yeah, all those bitches.
Yeah. Where exactly in the story do you want to start? We want to give you guys kind of a good look at our dynamic and how our life works like together as like a relationship between us, and also as like separate, like how we live our lives, like knowing that like we don't like live together and stuff,
and that we were separated basically from the beginning, so that has definitely been difficult at times for both of us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the most common questions that people have, for me at least, was, do you get her back when she's 18? I'd always thought that was an interesting question, but so many people ask me that, and no. You know,
Yeah.
though that's her mom, the people I chose, you know, to adopt her, I relinquished my right to parent and gave that right up to them. And so that's the dynamic. That's the root of the dynamic, is that they are the parents and I am not. And so that doesn't mean that you get them back at 18. Now, I know that there's different laws in different states, but as far as Colorado, that doesn't happen. I don't think that's a part of the law in general. But I guess we could maybe look further into that.
Yeah, we could. I've never even looked at the law on it. The only thing I do know for sure is that at least in 2000, or in the 90s to 2000s, you did have a 6-month time period where if the birth mother did decide she wanted her kid back, basically she could get it back. So it was like...
And I was given that right as well when I was waiting. And so there was actually a conversation with her mother that was, you know, in her preparing that I could at some point change my mind within that 6 months after the child was placed. And sure enough, when I was going through counseling for the adoption, there was a couple that had found a family and was going to place the baby with this family, excuse me, and they ended up placing the baby, but then changing their mind and taking the baby back. And I was always grateful for that experience because I was able to see how that affected both of the families, and I'm sure the child at some capacity, being small, but still. And I, at that point, just had to make a decision, okay, is this really what I'm going to do? And that's really what I wanted to do. And I assured her of that, but I'm sure that there was a lot of nervous energy around that 6 months for sure.
Yeah, because if you look at it from the birth mom's or the birth family's point of view, it's like, well, if I change my mind, I have like 100 and however many days 6 months is, like, to really, like, know if this is the decision I want to make. But if you think about it from, like, the families that try so hard to have kids, wait so long for the process of adoption, like, for whatever reason, like, they can't have children or they just want to adopt, they go through that whole process, finally get a baby, and then for that time period are freaking out all the time that their kid's going to get taken. And actually, oh my gosh, I actually brought this up to my dad. He was like, there were times I was really scared. I would come home, and both me and my sister are adopted from different families. She's not Shannon's biological daughter. It's a different thing, but very, very similar situations. But he said that he feared that he would come home from work and one of us just wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So that's like
that's
really,
that's
really
a legit
hard.
fear.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is just an example of the emotional heartstrings that this really does involve. And there are a lot of different situations and dynamics within this, just like this, that are difficult, like being separated and then maybe seeing each other and then having to be separated again. And so it's just, there's a lot of, like, what is a good word? Like psychosomatic, like, like,
it's
just,
it's
very confusing emotionally. And, thank God we're both pretty self-aware people that were able to really dig into deep and then also lean into each other and to talk about it. And so I think that's also the heart of why we're trying to put this out there too, is to maybe empathize with people or to just say, hey, if you've been wanting to reach out to your birth family, like, hey, maybe that's a good idea for you, and we could offer support in that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I'm asked the most, one of the top questions at least, is first of all, people are just shocked if I say, like, my birth mom. They get confused and they're like, what do you mean? And then I say I'm adopted and they're like, wait, your real mom or whatever? We'll get into that whole thing in a minute.
Yeah.
But people are always so surprised that I have a relationship with you, and then they learn how close we truly are, and that like, mind fucks them.
Yeah.
They like don't even get it. Like they
don't get it. People don't get it. And that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I never get mad at people for that because like it's really confusing even for us, and I've dealt with it for almost 18 years now, and so has she.
Yes.
So for people who are like totally unfamiliar with the situation, I can understand their confusion.
Yeah.
But for example, one of the people who thought this was like the most amazing thing ever was my advisor in my high school that I went to. When I was in high school, I did an internship for one of, like, my graduating projects, basically. I had to do 6 in order to graduate. And one was that I had to, like, do a career thing and, like, choose a career and do an internship and do interviews and stuff. So I decided to do it at a salon that she was working at. And when I told my advisor it was with my birth mom, he was shook. Like, he literally... No, he was like, what do you mean? Yeah. And in the meeting where, like... basically, I, like, passed that project and, like, everything for graduation. He, like, brought that up, and I was like, it's just weird to me that you're bringing that up because it's such a part of my life.
It's so normal.
And it's so normal, but, like, for them, it's so taboo, so other people are, like, staring at it. They're like, you did an internship with your birth mom?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the ladies at the salon, too, were very shocked, I mean, I think on my end of things, I probably tend to keep it pretty quiet. I don't tell anyone unless I've known them for a really long time. And even in that case, depending on the scenario and how I know them, like if it's at work or if it's, maybe just not appropriate to share very personal things, then I don't. There was a time where I was very vocal about it, and that was emotional for me because it felt like I just was kept like reliving it almost, or it was just a lot, and I felt like it was also such a close thing to my heart. This is my daughter technically, and I want to protect that. So I stopped being vulnerable about it and talking about it for a really long time. But I think at this point, now that she's almost an adult and we are both very good at articulating what the relationship is, and also setting boundaries and talking about, do we feel comfortable telling this to certain people? We've actually had conversations on the side like, hey, you know, I want you to come over here, but this person's going to be here. What are we going to say? Are we going to say that we're related? That this, you know, that are we going to explain this whole thing to them, or are we just going to keep it really simple? And so recently we decided that if it's something we don't want to share with this person or these people, then I just say that she's my goddaughter.
Because that works really well, because, you know, godparents are like parent figure type people anyway. So that just made so much sense to me, and we both were like, why did we
think of that like 10 years ago? It would have been so much more helpful like 10 years ago.
And there was like a point in my life, I think it was like my early teens, where like we really struggled with that, like what we would tell people. Like, do you remember like between like when I was like in high school, like first started high school, and like I would come over to like your new jobs or just your house and,
around, like, because people, it was so normal for us to be around, but it was so not normal for everyone else.
And there was a point,
just like what she was saying.
Like, I feel like everyone understands it now. Maybe it's just because like this generation is chilling out. But around that time, no one seemed to understand it, and I remember how frustrated we both were. We would explain the situation over and over to people, and no one seemed to understand it. I was like hitting an adolescent, like ages.
Age and time, and being young and trying to figure that kind of stuff out emotionally, even though all of us are very vocal about it and talking about it, it still has got to be difficult. And then to be an outgoing person like Alyssa is and want to explain those things, and for people not to really receive that or understand it has got to be frustrating. And for me, it was just like, I think I felt like maybe judged almost.
Yeah, and it was almost not even that they didn't understand it. I get people not understanding it, but it was to the point where people weren't even really respecting it. And they were like going, like, maybe we should just get into the whole thing about like why I don't call you mom, because
go ahead.
That is okay.
This
so
is a good point.
I call her Shannon because that's just okay. Honestly, wait, that's just how it's always been. I don't even know if I have like a good explanation. But it's because my mother, Nancy, you've like met her in some videos. She is
a saint.
Like her and Ira, my dad. Yeah, well, they are. Yeah, she's a saint.
We love Nancy.
We love her to death. But she's my mother. She raised me. She was the one up with me through the nights, feeding me. Like, she was the mother. She adopted me. She signed the papers. Her parenting, like, she had the right to parent me. So when people say like, well, Shannon is your real mom, like, why don't you call her mom, that's just upsetting, because like scientifically, biologically, I have her genetics, like everything. I'm like a mini her.
She like came out of my vagina.
Okay,
exactly. Let's break it down.
And so like, she's my biological mother, but like the whole definition of like a real mom, first of all, I don't even like that. Like, I want people to get the fuck out of my face with that. Like,
it's like, what is one more person like loving a child gonna hurt them? Kind of a perspective, like, and mass respect for Nancy, and so that's why we have the dynamics that we do, and that's why she doesn't call me mother because or mom, because I'm not that Nancy is, and that's a respect issue at that point, you know.
Yeah, because she's not that figure in my life. Like, she isn't the one who picked me up from school, like, who like, you know, like, she just wasn't there every single day. She wasn't raising me. She didn't raise me, but she was luckily involved throughout my whole life.
Maybe not as much as when you were like really young, because that was hard for me for sure. Those first years. I just have nothing but respect for Nancy, and I think this kind of goes right into, you know, the dynamic that we created within the open adoption that we've been experiencing, which I think we wanted to touch on the fact that, you know, every open adoption is different. You know, we don't get a you know, how to do open adoption booklet or whatever pamphlet from the adoption agency. It is just something that we've all had to work at pretty hard. We've had to communicate. We've had some really challenging things happen within the dynamic, specifically with the birth father, my dad even.
It can get
and
really
just some
messy.
really weird things because people don't want to respect titles. And I think, you know, or they, you know, we created a system where, you know, if I wanted to see Alyssa, or if, you know, the birth father wanted to see Alyssa, then we would talk to Nancy first, you know, because she's the mother. She's the adult
in the
chaperone.
situation.
Right. I mean, in any situation, I think that would be like protocol.
Yeah, you wouldn't just go directly to a kid.
like, you know, hoping to have an emotional connection. So it's something that we thought, Nancy and myself specifically, we created this dynamic where we thought it was best that, you know, we sort of tried to protect Alyssa and too many emotions coming at her. We were always trying to like checkpoint, like, okay, how is everybody feeling about this? There were times where I had to call Nancy actually and just say, hey, I don't think I can see Alyssa for a while, because it was really hard for me. But it was better that we just talked about those things. Yeah. And that made that, you know, our guidelines, so to speak, stronger. And that's what created a bond, too.
Yeah. And that, like, using my mom as, like, a barrier between, like, Shannon and I think is really good. Because, first of all, it's, like, a filter. So, like, say, like, because you were really young. Like, you could say something that would hurt me.
Yes.
But if you say it to my mom, she is the mother in the situation, so she knows how to explain it in a way that a child would understand.
Right. You see, because I was 16 when I had her, so she was dealing with me when I was very, very young, and that is a great point, Alyssa. Yeah. That's a really great point. Yeah. It was like a sounding board, and she was definitely able to offer advice. There are still things where I'll call Nancy and say, hey, this and this and this, or, you know, we have our own private relationship as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it turned into this thing where, like, we don't even have to, like, call each other about the adoption thing now. Like, my mom, like, my mother is just so wise. Like, Shannon is saying, like, if she's having a problem, she can just go to her. Yes. And now, like, they have their own relationship, like, kind of even outside of the whole adoption thing. Yes. Like, I know you guys meet for lunch.
Oh, we do. We meet for lunch. We meet for coffee, you know, and we do talk about Alyssa, but we also talk about how we're doing, too. And so it's kind of developed into something, a bit more personal. And then I don't always share what I talk with Nancy about with Alyssa, and vice versa. And Nancy and I actually had a recent conversation about that, about how we really try to keep things separate and autonomous, you know, and just having our own relationships. And I think that that's even going to serve us even as she goes into being an adult as well, which is like, what, in like 6 months or something? Yeah. She's going to be 18 soon.
I'm going to be 18 in 2 months from today.
And I just turned 34 and I'm like, this is wild.
I can't imagine.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And I think that a lot of you out there that are maybe my age and, you know, just now having kids and thinking, how could she do that? You know, I feel like it's not necessarily a judgment, but I feel like maybe people would have more of an appreciation of, like, what it actually takes to make a decision to still, you know, bring a life into this world, but then also, you know, think about that child's best interests. So, you know, just know that I did it because I just really felt that that was exactly what I needed to do. I felt that God really wanted me to do that for Alyssa. And I actually recently asked her, you know, if it was a good choice. I said, remember? I was like, yeah. Did I make a good choice? Was that it? Was that good?
Yeah, like, was that like last summer?
This was like recently. I think like even a couple months ago.
Yeah, I feel like that was like one of the last times we hung out.
Yeah. And she just said, yeah, you did good.
I was
that
like,
was good.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
because I've been given so many opportunities that I wouldn't have been able to get. And, like, don't get me wrong, I don't think it would have been the end of the world.
No,
like,
I don't
It wouldn't have been the end of the world if she didn't make that decision.
Because we're clearly inseparable, so...
But she would have had to play, like, a different role. We wouldn't have the same type of relationship. In, like, our dynamic... I can't talk. Our dynamic right now is that she's, like, my best friend. Like, sisters. Like, even closer than that.
Yeah.
So we can tell each other literally everything. And I would tell her things that I wouldn't tell my mom.
Like, and I wouldn't tell her mom either.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless, you know, you guys know where I'm going with
And that's actually, like, happened.
Yeah.
There have been situations where, like, I was actually in danger and, like, I would tell Shannon. But, you know, like, then that's a point where, like, I'm actually hurting myself and in a bad situation. And so she had to tell my mom about it so my mom could take charge and parent me and be like, get your shit together.
And, again, another respect issue, you know.
Yeah.
But that was always discussed. It was like, Alyssa, you know that I'm not going to say anything unless I feel like you're in danger.
And that would always be, like, brought up every time before, like, we talked about something serious.
Yeah.
We would always,
usually she
like,
would tell her mom before I had to say anything.
Yeah,
you would always tell your mom about, like, a lot. I mean, you're very open with her. They're very open with each other.
Yeah, I didn't really keep secrets from my mom.
If you guys watch some of her other videos, you'll see she cusses in front of her mom. She is just herself. This is what's beautiful about Nancy, is that she just lets people be who they are.
Yeah, but not, like, in a disrespectful way. Like, I don't tell her to, like, you know.
No, I think that Alyssa knows when to like pump the brakes.
No, yeah, I do have somewhat of a filter. Thank you. My dad would disagree, but that's because he's very.
he's a little bit more like conservative. Yeah.
But yeah, she really lets me express myself and like, yeah. That was another thing Shannon really looked for when she was looking for a family to adopt me. She wanted them to be very versatile, like in their beliefs and stuff, so that I would like grow up in an environment where I could like find my own path and stuff.
Make her own choices.
Yeah, and my family that I'm with like is very about that. Yes. That's actually probably the number one thing they're about.
100%. They just walk alongside of their children in everything that they do. And that's really important, especially when you're raising children, I think.
Yeah.
Is to let them be who they are, let them make mistakes, but to be right there and to, you know, offer that support no matter what. And that's exactly what Nancy does. I mean, it's like, you know, if you guys were to meet her, maybe we should do a video with her at some point. I don't know.
Should.
But she's just the kindest person. And I remember the first picture I saw of her in the book. They actually send a book of, you know, several different families, and they have pictures and letters and describing, you know, what their family is all about.
It's like a Craigslist ad.
Yeah, basically, but like tangible. The first book I opened and the first picture I saw was a picture of Nancy, and her eyes were like sparkling, and it was just her smile. I mean, honestly, it's like, you guys know, like, when you see someone, you're like, that is a really kind person. Like, I know people have had those moments where they see that person, or they just have an interaction with somebody like that, and their smile just makes your day. That's Nancy, you know? And so she's just a kind person, and she's very non-judgmental. And
I have told her some crazy things.
Yeah, I mean, well, and she's, you know, also great because she knew that she was taking on 2 children that were maybe going to be more difficult to handle. And I mean, this isn't saying a bad thing. It's just this is our personalities. We've both, you know, experienced bipolar symptoms and things like that. And so, you know, she knew that she you know, was definitely, you know, going to be in some challenging situations. And she just handled it beautifully. And in fact, she even told me before you were even born, she said, if, you know, something is wrong with her, I mean, not that we were thinking you were going to be unhealthy, but she would say, even if something was different with her, we don't care. Yeah. So that should probably illustrate a little bit better of what I'm trying to say. She doesn't care whether, you know, she just loves people where they're at. And that's great. We love Nancy.
Yes, we love her. So we are going to do a part 2 of this video that talks about like the story from both of our point of views.
But do leave your comments and questions, and we've always, like, we would joke and say, like, we want to do this on Oprah.
Or Ellen or something.
Or whatever, you know. But
we want to make this, like, a worldwide thing. We want to actually tell people our story, because I've met a lot of people with open adoptions that, you know, their only way of communicating with a birth parent is, like, through letters every few years. Like, there's total different extents of open adoptions.
Yes.
And our situation is so rare.
Very rare and very open. So there are different capacities. Thank you for touching on that. Yeah. There really are. We could probably talk about that in future videos, too, because that's a real thing. But there are other options out there besides just giving your child completely away and never seeing them, or abortion. So, you know, I would maybe like to touch on that in a later video as well. I mean, I definitely believe that women should have their own choice, but at the same time, I just felt really uncomfortable with making the choice of abortion. And I mean, look at the miracle that I was able to produce here. And I'm hoping that speaks to people too, because you don't have to be afraid. There's always a different situation out there for you. Okay?
And it could be more challenging, less challenging. Right. That's the scary thing, especially in that situation, because you literally have no idea. And when you are in that situation, it's kind of out of your hands at that point, because it's scary. Like, I can't really even, like, imagine. I mean, I kind of can imagine, because, like, my whole situation, like, when I was 16, but, like, I never thought about either of those two things anyway. But
yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, it was I guess I'll just use the word, like, it just felt like an anointing. Like, it just felt like this is what needed to be done from the beginning. From when I was 15 years old, you know, I got almost like a mission or a purpose from God, is my belief. And, you know, actually heard him, like, audibly, like, speak to me about this specific adoption story. So, you know, this started way back in like 99, 98, 99. So, you know, it's pretty incredible, and we're really excited to share the rest. But I mean, it's just very, very intricate, and something that we're passionate about getting out there. And we both just have felt for a really long time that the world, or, you know, just a lot of people would maybe want to hear this. Maybe this could really help everyone. So we're excited.
Yes, so stay tuned for part 2, because that will get a lot more in depth with like where I was while she was like growing up through her adult years until now, where she was while I was like a toddler, and like just growing up through everything, because we've had a lot of different stages.
There's an incredible testimony for both of us in that time.
Yeah, and like different phases, and like being really close or being not so close, and then like other people involved, like the birth dad of my birth. Joshua, I talked about him. I don't know. His name's Joshua.
So we're hoping that maybe we can get him into a video someday. So if you're watching out there, we're coming to get you.
Yes. So, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and tell your sad hoe, like I said.
Tell all that bitches.
Yeah, tell your grandma, unless she's really conservative, then she won't appreciate my language. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell your cat. I don't fucking know. Yeah. Okay, thank you guys so much. I love and respect you all. I'm so happy that you took time out of your lovely day to watch my video.
Thank you.
Bye. Mwah. I do that too. Mwah.